sat down with my girlfriend last night and talked about what I was going to do, she described when I read my notes to her as me being some kind of Victor Meldrew kind of character. Because what I want to assure you, even though I might sound like a harbinger of doom as I speak, when I come to my next section, when we're talking about practice, that's when it all becomes jolly and sort of lovely. But I find it incredibly hard to think of the next 10 years. You know, I'm sort of mindful of tsunamis that take a second, volcanoes that erupt and cause huge disarray across the globe, and earthquakes. You know, things happen in the blink of an eye. You know, life changes, and sort of predicting how things are going to go in the next 10 years is virtually impossible. Underpinning everything I think at the moment, the way I'm working, is just thinking about the recession and thinking about the state we're in currently, you know, the state that bankers have got us in and the sort of repercussions that I know we're going to discuss as the day goes on. And my worry for the next 10 years is that market forces that have seen this collapse that we're in have been kind of the dominant way of looking at society, of dictating our lives, every single thing we do. And I'm constantly asked in this arts and health agenda, how do you measure it? How do you value it? How do you weigh it to prove the worth of the work you're doing? And I love this, which I pulled from New Dictionary of Cultural Literature, or literacy rather. And it's something, when I was at college, zeitgeist was mentioned all the time, and for me it meant spirit of the age. This definition says the zeitgeist of England in the Victorian period included a belief in industrial progress, and then interestingly the zeitgeist of the 1980s in the USA was a belief in the power of money and the many ways in which to spend it. And we're in it. This is it. This is where we find ourselves now. What I'm going to allude to hopefully might suggest that the arts and culture might offer us something to rebuild some of the mess that's happened to civic society. I think increasingly the kind of projects I'm involved with, loosely or directly, I'm inspired with the way that they bring people together. So whether that's around mental ill health, community capacity, it's about bringing people together. And I just think Michael Sandel was giving the Reef lectures last year on the Radio 4. I don't know if anybody heard it. Can you just wave your hand if anybody heard it? Nobody heard it? Okay. He described politics of the common good. You know, and he's describing almost a renaissance in politics. I don't know if we're going to hit it or if we're a million miles away from it. And what I wanted to pluck out from the ether, thinking about the future and learning from the past, is Augusto Boal, the Brazilian playwright and activist, died, I think, last year, had the most oppressive existence, way beyond my experience of living. He lived in Brazil, he was a drama practitioner, had lots of radical ideas about working with people, but the government at the time, the military government, oppressed him, imprisoned him, tortured him, and he was forced to flee the country. Now, he didn't let that stop him, and he came back to Brazil as soon as the opportunity was there for him, and he developed not only kind of the ideas that we know as forum theatre, but this legislative theatre, whereby people weren't just told what they should be doing and how they should be doing it, but they were actively being asked how society can develop. And that, to me, ties us very neatly into Michael Sandel and this idea of politics of the common good, where we think about civic society. So, thinking about Boal, there's a growing understanding that the arts are so much more than exclusive baubles, paintings on hospital corridor walls, or the privilege of the rich and powerful. And I think the methodologies that I guess you're all interested in kind of potentially propagate this kind of utopian vision I aspire to. But not as a bauble, not as some kind of palliative, but as a way of questioning society. And I worry that if we constantly look about measurements and best value and all the sort of jargon that we're constantly bombarded with, we're not going to give people the opportunity to sort of really do what people like Boal were doing, and provoking and questioning and sort of showing dissent in society. So, to conclude, my hope for the next decade is that we don't mainstream our work too much, because I'm constantly asked, how do you want to mainstream your work? We don't have too many benchmarks, and we don't have too many quality standards. Or rather, we do. We begin to have some of those, but they don't dominate and dilute the very potency of what it is I think we're all trying to achieve. So I'll come back to that and sort of be slightly more positive in my sort of next section, but it's really about how we can capture people's imagination and work with imagination.